little bit about the neurochemistry of addiction or addictive patterns of behavior. So first you need to know that the brain elicits different neurochemical responses in response to many different things. So let's take cocaine, for example, okay, and just at a very high level. Let's say somebody takes cocaine, okay, this is going to produce a sharp dopamine reaction as one of multiple neurochemicals, dopamine being the reward neurochemical essentially, producing pleasure, motivation, and attention. Now, different addictive or compulsive behaviors are going to produce a different neurochemical response. So another example of this is, while I definitely don't believe that love is strictly about neurochemical reactions that we're just addicted to, it is important to note that we do have a neurochemical cocktail that takes place when we start to fall into the honeymoon phase of a relationship. So we get like the oxytocin neurochemical, which has to do with bonding. We have serotonin, which produces a feeling of well-being. We have phenylethylamine, which is sometimes referred to as the infatuation neurochemical, and then dopamine released, just to name a few, in the honeymoon stage of a relationship. Now, obviously, these happen to different degrees in the honeymoon stage of a relationship versus after a hit of cocaine, but it's important to recognize that this isn't just something that occurs because of something that we put into our bodies. It's not just a neurochemical response in response to something that there's an intake of, right? It can be from just falling in love that we have a neurochemical cocktail produced. Now, even more interesting, research shows that with gambling addicts, their greatest dopamine rush and pleasure spike is when they think about gambling, more so than when they're actively doing the activity of gambling. And what this shows you, and why I want to highlight this, is that it demonstrates how much your thoughts, beliefs, associations, and perceptions impact your neurochemistry. Now, thoughts and behaviors create emotional responses and neurochemical reactions. So if we can control our thoughts and how we perceive a situation, there is a direct relationship on the impact on our neurochemistry. So how do we do this, and what does this even mean? Well, in order to do this, we first have to become very aware of what our negative triggering thoughts are, because we're here to focus on what we're escaping from, right? So triggering thoughts is the term that we're going to use in this course to represent the thought patterns that prompt the addictive or compulsive behavior, okay, that prompt the need for the escapism to occur. So as an example, let's say you have a thought that somebody doesn't like you, or you're having a hard time connecting to somebody whose relationship you value. Maybe your compulsive behavior in the situation becomes to people please. And maybe this is just sort of this paradigm that you fall into. You might not be sitting in a social situation thinking, I don't think this person likes me, so let me start being really people pleasy and let me become a people pleaser in order to try to gain their approval, right? This might just be something that you naturally fall into without your conscious mind really thinking that all the way through and making a conscious decision. So you don't even have to get a conscious moment to make a decision in this situation, because it's happening beneath the surface. So just by isolating these patterns with yourself ahead of time, you begin the process of becoming conscious of this. So if you can recognize, for example, that, when I fear that people aren't liking me, I do notice that I start becoming extra, people pleasing, and I forget my own boundaries, and I don't tune into myself because I hyper tune into others, and I fall into this sort of compulsive trap. So when you recognize that, you see that it's not just, I struggle with people pleasing and I can't seem to stop it. It's, there's something that's actually triggering that pattern of behavior beneath the surface, and now I can isolate it and I know what it is. This means that you're on the track to start beginning to have a say. So we're first, before we work on fixing those compulsive thoughts beneath the surface and the behavioral patterns, we're first going to focus on sourcing what triggering thoughts you have. So in other words, we're finding your whys for the addictive patterns of behavior so you can make them conscious. And then what you're going to do is learn to recognize the impulse that takes place within you, so that you can begin making conscious decisions instead of being run by your subconscious conditioning.